Wangan Midnight was firstly released in 2001, and since then has become one of the most popular and wheel-slammed arcade games in Asia today under the name Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 6RR. Even I became interested into the game when I was young, and it all started in 2001 when Genki and Namco developed and released the first game called Wangan Midnight and Wangan Midnight R the same year at the arcade, taking place within Bayshore, Tokyo, Japan, featuring battling against Wangan Midnight characters in story mode, local 2-player versus mode, and time attack mode, which can be selected by pressing the rectangular button after inserting required credits. And to win the race, you need to simply empty your rival's health gauge or be first within a set amount of time or distance. But if you get hit, crash, or go second place, your gauge will get hit or lower until it's empty. Wangan Midnight also allows you to select some cars of your choice, from Mazda, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Subaru, Toyota, RUF, and in Wangan Midnight R, also being able to choose cars from story mode alongside minor physics changes. This version was then ported to only the PS2 a year later, not to be confused with the PS3 and PSP version. Later in 2004, Wangan Midnight Maxi Boost, or its final name, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune, was released for most of Asia and Oceania, also known as the International by present day, North America, the UK, and Japan in their respective versions excluding Europe, primarily due to the lack of interest. The game was entirely reworked from the ground up using Renderware game engine and Sega's Chihiro Xbox-based hardware for the new user interface, graphics, and physics, alongside with the new background music or called entry music that gets added in every release. Featuring a 20-chapter long story mode which can be played to tune up your car up to 800 horsepower and even being able to play characters outside of the game's lore, alongside outrun stars showing how many cars you win in versus mode, especially in the game's attract mode, and being able to title your cars, plus renewed cars list removing and adding cars that were and weren't available to its predecessor, alongside driving main story mode cars in Special Machine Time Attack. RUF became Gambala, but unfortunately never made it outside the Japanese version due to licensing issues, resulting the Gambala Blackbird in story mode to become Nissan, alongside secret cars being a thing and the life gauge battle feature being removed in favor of main goaling the distance goal based system. Fortunately, the game also added a tuning card system, which you can use it to save, load, and transfer your card data in any arcade from a test build without ever losing your progress, having to renew your card every 60 plays, and now having its own website. Plus, the developers adding barriers in new beltline as obstacles due to it being constructed at the time, alongside being able to go through accessible road splits until Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 2, released a year later, introducing 4-player versus mode alongside more than 6 new cars, skill class based system up to SSS, Hakone course, a reworked story mode and ending based on the manga up to 80 chapters, though kinda inaccurate and incomplete, being able to tune up to 815 horsepower, new music, and being able to get the Wangan Midnight R background music, or called BGM. This version also introduced an outrun mode, where you can outrun story mode or manga characters within sections in every level. And ever since this version, you can transfer your tuning card data from the previous release and reuse it as a discarded vehicle card after 60 plays or when it expires. That allows you to give it to a friend and or start a new car from the same brand from chapter 21 at 600 horsepower, alongside giving you a custom color. Which after, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 3 was released in 2007 with Zine as its developer, initially with a different cab design and the last official support for the UK and North America also due to the lack of interest, but is now using their new N2 hardware with Nvidia's GPU and reworked again under Bing Video Game Engine, but still not using LCD screens yet. This version introduces the game's new Ghost Battle versus mode, where you can challenge, receive notifications upon loading your car, and take revenge on someone or your friend that plays in your local arcade, which is done via emulating or pre-recording the player's gameplay if played in a specific course or so, and even battling against local arcade's crown players of a course. And from this, you get to have and change aero parts out of your car car out of it by winning and loading up your dress-up points with or without bonuses depending on the difficulty. Alongside first placers to choose a direction for some courses in versus mode, alongside the addition of 5 new cars, 3 new courses from Wangan to Yokohama to Osaka, reworked story mode and ending with the Nissan Blackbird getting aero kits to match up with the Gambala Blackbird, and being able to get Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 1 BGM with up to 820 horsepower minus special machine time attack. Plus being able to rename, get the Namco meter, and every Wangan Midnight BGM the game offers for those transferring from Maximum Tune 2 without losing in story mode. Wangan Midnight Anime and the PS3 and PSP version of Wangan Midnight was also released the same year, not by Namco but by Genki as a spin-off to the first game, featuring voice-acted characters in story mode, though shorter. Survival mode to defeat up to 99 cars, sandbox free run mode to free roam around the course, maximum speed mode to drive their unlocked car at the now defunct Yatabi race course, in-depth card system to upgrade and add special stats to the cars, and even have more car selections than Maximum Tune 3. Now back in the arcade, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 3 DX was later developed and released a year later by Zine and Namco, with North America importing cabs, introducing more than 2 new car models, Nagoya course, being able to tune up to 825 horsepower alongside expanded story mode up to 100 chapters, 2 versions of 5 bonus chapters involving characters not in the game story, and a new special meter for completing the entire story without losing. Also featuring maxi outrun coins for ghost battle mode with backgrounds and fauna animals per 500 or 1000 outruns in versus mode or ghost battle mode. The live action Wangan Midnight the movie was also released to theaters a year later, but was backlashed and never had a movie series due to how inaccurate it is to the game's lore. But that aside, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 3 DX Plus was released a year later after the movie by now rebranded Bandai Namco, introducing the new R35 and Classic GTR, Fukuoka Expressway, and new dress-up parts, alongside the quote-unquote 3DX Plus World Championship being held a year later in probably shit quality. Plus Honda and the championship match was supposedly going to be implemented according to the leaked game dump, but was never released due to Honda hating street racing games at the time and an unknown reason. And 10 years later, after the first Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 4 was released, and in 2016 for China, while 3DX Plus was in development, introducing reworked graphics and physics, also using their universal game engine, modernized user interface, and cabs with new hardware that now uses 16:9 LCD 768p displays, which is still being used till today. Ghost Battle Mode is now online Ghost Battle Mode, expanding to be able to play against other players not only outside of your arcade or region, but even throughout the rest of the world where it has it. Though unfortunately, it is dependent at where you are, as Japan and Indonesia ran locally. Japan Challenge was also added, where you can race against players in Japan and get exclusive arrows out of it, alongside Teams feature, which is a group feature up to 50 members, with the addition of Yokohama and Yesu courses, plus 8 new cars with Chevrolet and even Rough to replace the Gambala licensing issue, and adding more than 2 new cars along the way. Local Arcade Challenge was added to the international version to allow players to compete against other players within their local arcade, and Online Champion Match or OCM for all versions to allow players to compete against the fastest player in Asia, Indonesia, or Japan, also allowing you to get prizes out of it. Story mode and its ending with the addition of 830 horsepower and 4 more meters was not only reworked and added, but also its save card data system, transitioning from tuning cards to Bana passport cards to make online features possible, alongside being able to simply tap into the card reader to load up your data, store 100 cars, give away free discarded vehicle cards, especially in the Wangan terminal, that can essentially allow you to also create or join in and manage teams, customize your car, and transfer your old data anytime. Plus, Bana passport cards have less risks of data corruption while being used, as it is now being stored into the game server, alongside the My Page service to exist in their official website to allow players to at least view their personal stats in cars, rankings, and other data, with the site now having its own domain name. Unfortunately, this was the last version to allow players to rename their cars upon transferring, alongside story mode being reduced to 60 chapters over time constraints, removal of 10 outrun mode in favor of it being a BGM, the minimap, and some courses and cars, but was eventually added back due to the game being released the 343 payday way. Did I also forget to mention that the game ran terribly considerably slower than its predecessor regardless due to its goofy procedural loading, yeah, that was a minor inconvenience. 3 years later, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 5 was released instead of 4DX alongside the return of North America in 2017 after a successful test location, but in slightly different branding and less cars due to licensing issues. That aside, Extreme Versus Mode was mainly introduced that allows you to race in few available reverse or mirrored courses with hidden directions, distance till goal, advantage, and the minimap for the Japanese version, as the Japanese version's user interface were also reworked alongside using Windows hardware, faster procedural loading, minor graphics, and major physics improvements. The international version sadly only got minor changes to it, but you can now get Versus Auras and grades from having an amount of stars, alongside Triple-S to Quad-S, Maxi Coins becoming Ghost Battle trophies, and the addition of Hakone Mount Taikan or C2 Shibuya/Shinjuku and Ikebukuro line course in the Japanese build with reordered Ghost Battle menu. Multiple different cars from both versions were added, from 5 different cars in the international and 9 different cars in the Japanese version, especially in the upcoming updates, mostly both adding more different cars along the way. Though in the Japanese side of things, Maxi G currency feature was introduced to allow purchasing new aero parts per dress upgrade or in the shop at the terminal, kinda replacing the dress up points feature, and using Maxi.net replacing My Page, which is essentially a subscription service that offered meters, plates, effects, and other cars as a way to take your money. Unfortunately, this would be the last version to get online champion matches for the Asian market due to boosting service drama. But it was the 10th year anniversary since Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 1 was released. Now we can see the graphics difference from Wangan Midnight R and Maximum Tune 1 to the Japanese version of 5. A year and 2 later, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 5DX was released in Japan, Asia and Oceania, and in 2018 for China, introducing the updated graphics, user interface, loading procedure, and Maxi G currency from the Japanese version, but without Maxi.net, the new physics, hardware, and minimap. Seeing the addition of the Kobe area, Shibuya/Shinjuku, and Ikebukuro line as 2 separate courses and new cars that were from the Japanese version and whatnot along the way. This unfortunately removed Extreme Mode in favor of moving them to regular Versus Mode as just reversed or mirrored courses alongside the removal of local arcade challenge. But that aside, Stamps feature was introduced in Ghost Battle Mode where you can fill up a sheet stamp to the Golden Treasure to get new stamps, which is also customizable at the terminal. 2 new events were added, from the rival name Bingo, prizing custom frames, to the Maxi G Special Ghost Truck to get double the Maxi G. The Japanese version also introduced Terminal Scratch Off where you can play it once a day to earn markers, stickers, and cars, but can be played up to 10 times a day using a digital currency called Banacoin. Then came in the best version according to the community, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 5DX Plus, released a year and 2 later for Japan and Asia and Oceania, 2021 for China, and 2022 for North America, with its main addition of Lamborghini, and finally Honda or Acura in the Chinese and American versions, alongside the addition of the Hiroshima course and Versus Other Region Ghosts, or simply Versorg, where you can ghost battle against ghosts from a specific country, especially from a different server, to get prizes from Maxi G to nameplates to stamps to meters, including a mini Cooper's event in the Japanese version. This would also be when Bandai Namco held its second quote-unquote World Championship in 2018 and its transfer of the development team to Yakat. Later in the same year and so, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 6 was released with much glory to its features that the community definitely liked it. From 2-player ghost battles to 4-player multi-ghost battles, which was done via emulating the player's playstyle to prevent conflict but happened to be initially dumb, alongside getting crowns being much more easier now, removal of Japan challenge, and the renewal of aero kits, removing stickers, liveries, most of real-life aero kits including the Blackbird aero kit due to Rough becoming Porsche, rival name Bingo, and even Maxi G in favor of the old-ass dress-up point system from Maximum Tune 3. Despite these though, compensations were included for those who had so much Maxi G, BBS wheels were added allowing players to replicate Reyna's R32, and the Blackbird is still kinda replicable under the 964 anyway. But that aside, Quad S is now up to Penta S. Ghost Battle trophies turned into region outrun map for Japan and region plates for other versions, alongside it finally using new hardware that runs on Windows including the significantly improved physics, return of the minimap, plus Indonesia servers merging to the rest of Asia and Oceania, resulting to be able to store up to 200 cars in one Bana Passport card and use discarded vehicle cards for yourself, alongside the unfortunate removal of teams for window stickers. Fortunately, if you're someone who wanted to get most of the goods from the Japanese version, they abolished both My Page and Maxi.net in favor of centralizing almost every site feature to the Wangan Navigator for free to allow you to get tickets, change titles of your car, and even do terminal scratch at the Wangan terminal. And those who wanted the full remastered 3DX Plus story experience, story mode was finally expanded back to 100 alongside 840 horsepower max, entirely new entry music minus the tuner arc plus new meters, in trade with having to get at least 100 wins to get them, including custom colors. Sadly, Versorg was removed, though was eventually added back later on to also allow getting fully tuned tickets out of it, including the addition of the Porsche 928 GT. Since the community actually hated 6 due to this, they released 6R to solve that problem in 2020. From the return of 5DX Plus aero parts, return of Ghost Battle trophies, and a new feature similar to Japan Challenge and Versorg called the National Highway Challenge. Alongside Versus Trial Race to exist for guests to drive in fully tuned cars if someone with Bana Pass allows it, the Ghost Battle menu being reordered again to let the game recommend cars that have the same skill as the player, and Wangan Navigator allowing the scratch off of car pieces, titles, monthly meters, stamps, nameplates, and cars that was from Maxi.net, plus 3 new cars. And for the first time in 15 years since the first Maximum Tune was released, no new BGM or entry music was added. And the game was never released outside of Japan due to the Corona beer pandemic. Almost 2 years later, after 6R was released, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 6RR was released for both Japan and Asia and Oceania when everything started to go back to normal. Jumping from 6 to 6RR or RR, you get the features from 6R plus Penta S to Hexa S minus the National Highway Challenge in favor of the more gambling Daily Bingo to race for balls to create lines, even with someone to get titles, frames, or custom plates, plus the rare 50th anniversary R35 GTR by Ital Design, which is part of the banner and the only R35 that can have aero part, with new BGM or entry music being added with a remix of a song, and the ending having taste. Alongside the addition of Wangan Tournament, which is essentially OCM but is qualified by stage and venue instead of by player, and by qualifying and winning out of the venue you played for, you get recognized for being first and or receive stamps, meters, nameplates, and titles. Limited edition events were also held to get limited edition cars and meters. In other words, 6RR is essentially Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 4DX plus RR with much glory, as the current user interface, graphics, engine, and physics were the same since Japanese 5 and 4, plus more gacha minus some of its good features lacking to its predecessors. But hey, as part of the Maximum Tune player myself, let's hope that Namco, which would likely release Maximum Tune 7 with at least overhauled graphics using Unreal Engine, maybe, instead of releasing Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 6RRRRRRRRRRR.